partidei Delgado, acolo este, va fi corner, dragi ascultători.
Hello and welcome to Val Verde Broadcasting. A number of you have asked since we started this channel to go back to the old format of doing trailer discussions, which we have not done, but now we are doing it. And isn't that a wonderful thing? I'm joined with my cohort, co-dictator and fellow human rights abuser, Duncan Casey. We're live via satellite. We're not in the same room today, are we, mate?
Yeah, no, by decadent communist satellite. we are indeed.
We really need to polish our own internal fiction, don't we? I think it needs work.
Yes.
Well,
yes. But yes, we are. By the wonders of technology, we are linked inextricably. I can't even speak.
Sort of like that freaky dream in Dead Ringers where Jeremy Irons is connected by an umbilical cord to his own twin brother. So anyway, we are here, as you've probably gathered by the title of this video and the thumbnail, to discuss the trailer for Todd Phillips' new film Joker, which is due, I believe, is it due this year? I think it's a 2019.
It is,
June,
yeah.
Is it?
I will have a look. I
So,
think it's
I mean,
released in October this year.
Released in October, okay. So, there's been lots of talk on the internet. We thought we'd get involved. The day today is Monday, the 8th of April. Those of you on Patreon will be hearing that this evening. The rest of you will be getting this on Wednesday the 10th, rather, of the same month, because we wanted to kind of strike while the iron was hot. I was, let's get our balls out immediately. I was pleasantly surprised by this trailer. I mean, I'm generally as known to be quite cynical about this kind of malarkey. This showed me something kind of interesting, but I have many caveats. I thought it was visually quite interesting. I mean, its influences are very clear. There's a very, very clear Scorsese riff going on between King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, and it's got a kind of Paul Schrader type vibe. And Scorsese's producing. I thought it looked quite interesting, but I have caveats to that. I quite liked how the trailer is assembled. I'm a fan of Joaquin Phoenix as an actor, and I think he can pull this off. If you were to say to me he was playing Joker in a mainline Batman film, I'd be interested. Duncan Casey, what are your kind of initial thoughts?
It's a funny one, isn't it? I mean, it's one of those ones where I think it's like, I think it's a bit bonkers, but that might just be its saving grace. I mean, it seems to play in a very odd pool, because on the one hand, yes, it's definitely its own thing. But I see a lot of connections to kind of the Gotham series in it, and I see a lot of connections and Bradley Cooper's one of the producers, as you do. It's got Robert De Niro in it, a little bit, which has elements of that. I think he's that chat show host or something, isn't he? And there's elements from the Dark Knight Returns in there.
Well, and that's also a King of Comedy type.
Yeah,
thing
of course.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, because
blend up between the two.
Yeah. Absolutely. So it's weird, and you've got an Alfred, and you've got a Thomas Wayne, played by Brett Cullen, who I believe was in Dark Knight Rises, wasn't he? Yeah, he was one of those.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, he's one of the politicians who doesn't like Jim Gordon in that. So that's weird. So it's weird because it's quite clearly not in the universe. I don't know. I guess it can't be in the universe that they've got going on at the moment. So is this the first step into a total Elseworlds world?
It would appear that way. I mean, my understanding is, from what I've read, and my broader kind of understanding of this project, is that they are based on the kind of, let's say, I'm not going to say failure, let's say the not success of the DCEU. They're not abandoning that completely, because things such as Shazam and Aquaman and Wonder Woman have done jolly well for themselves. But they are kind of branching off into Elseworlds type stuff, which I personally am 100% behind. I always sort of thought that this is the kind of thing you couldn't do in a mainstream film. But I think now this kind of stuff has saturated the pop culture enough that your general audience know that there are alternate universes and stuff can go on and blah 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 blah. It was 55 million. I find that very encouraging. That is absolutely grotesquely obscene amount of money, except in the world of superhero film production, where this is quote unquote sort of low budget.
Well, it's in the same ballpark as Logan, isn't it, in terms of budget, which is where absolutely it's encouraging.
Yeah, well, it shows something a bit more low key, something, because if you were doing this same project with that same trailer and you told me it cost $200 million, I'd be like, okay, whatever. Here's my concern. So I think they are going off into kind of an Elseworlds direction, and I think that is a thoroughly good thing. Because I've always thought that that's the kind of stuff. A lot of the stuff I loved the most from DC was kind of the Elseworld stuff, and I think as a kind of British comics kid, my into American comics was The Dark Knight Returns, because it showed this kind of not exactly Elseworlds but kind of extra continuity type situation. What worries me about this is I don't want like the end credit scene to be Jared Leto's Joker closing a book to his grandchildren, young Indiana Jones style, and that's why I became the Joker.
Yeah.
Like that would be the worst. Okay. And like,
yeah, no, I can't. I can't see that happening. It is going to be interesting how they square the particular circle of. All right, I can accept that this is not in any way in keeping what they've got going on now. It's an odd way to go. I always thought, actually, funnily enough, that this is how they ought to have maybe approached the DC universe on film, slightly in hindsight. But obviously they've kind of, it feels sort of rotten at the core with the two tentpole characters kind of not really working out, and the ancillary stuff starting to make more sense. And that's kind of where Marvel came at it from. They started with the kind of peripheral characters and ended up, in quite short order, but ended up, sort of building from the outside in. And I think actually here, maybe this is the way it should have gone. I mean, I don't understand why Aquaman has made billions and billions of dollars, but there we are. Shazam, I gather, I haven't seen it, but I gather, it looks like fun. It looks exactly what they should be doing. So it's and obviously I thought Wonder Woman was fantastic. So I think these are the movies they should be making. This one, obviously it's got a young Bruce Wayne in it, so we're saying that the Joker is older for some reason. Don't know why.
Well, I'm kind of hopeful. This is my thing, and these are my kind of caveats. I want this to be so completely off the wall and nothing to do with it, because what you could call the Gotham problem. I liked Gotham for the wrong reasons, because it was completely mental. It was absolutely the most fever dreamish kind of mad thing. I stopped watching it, not because I hated it. I used to tune every week. It got a bit drawn out, but at first I was like, this is stupid, and then I was like, hold on, it's kind of brilliant because of how mad it is. Yeah. But there's this problem where when Batman's 8, like Mr. Freeze, Penguin, all these people are all running around already as adults.
Yeah, exactly.
Batman, he's not 8, he's like 12, whatever, and he's obviously grown up with it. And what we're saying here is like, if Joaquin Phoenix is like 50, and if Bruce Wayne's like 10, by the time Bruce Wayne's even 30, the Joker will be like 70.
Yeah.
I did find. So this is the thing, I think what I want the kind of Bruce... I hope that Bruce Wayne is there as a kind of bait and switch, because something nuts happens. Like, I seen someone say, he could kill the Waynes or something like that. That would be a kind of cool... And then the end of the film is just this kind of bleak alternate thing where the Joker has no one to stop him or whatever. What I did see earlier, which I'm awkwardly looking for on my phone, which I should have done earlier, is the internet's own Harry Partridge. Someone of whom we're fans tweeted this, which I found very interesting. He tweeted that about 5 hours ago today. My prediction for Joker twist: Joker will stop Joe Chill in Act 3, saving the Wayne family but dooming Gotham to never have a Batman. What do you think of that?
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, very good. Yeah. That'd be exciting. I mean, I suppose the other way to look at this is that this is the inverse Batman Begins, where it's kind of like, the whole idea of escalation from the Nolan verse was that Batman was a temporary salve, but that ultimately brought about an awful lot worse. And he was, merely he wasn't the solution. He was also the cause of a lot of Gotham's problems. I think here it's like Joker's the pre-generator to all of that. And because there's even talk in the trailer about putting on masks and it that dialogue in isolation could be about Batman. It's sort of a bit ambiguous, and you kind of go, well, are we saying that Joker is somehow that it's like this is what if it all started with Joker, which is kind of what the Burton films kind of did. I know he wasn't the Joker at that point, but it was like Joker caused the deaths of the Waynes, and I don't know. I hope we don't go down that route. In a way, I hope we. That would be
a shame, because that's very true. Actually, what I've done, and I'm sure people have already run to the comments here, is I've accidentally pitched the fucking Tim Burton Batman origin story, didn't I? But then again, my point was that he wouldn't kill the Waynes. He would kill the Waynes, including Bruce. Thing. But you're saying he would just kill the Waynes, kind of potentially like a.
Well, there's that shot of him, isn't there? Like making Bruce Wayne smile. So
which implies the Waynes are dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
In a roundabout way.
I'd like to think that he's not instrumental in killing the Waynes, and I'd like to think actually maybe that happens before then, and in fact maybe even that as some sort of apex of problems in Gotham is one of the things that drives the Joker over the edge, because there's a lot of Killing Joke in there. It seems like he's got a sick wife. I know in the Killing Joke she's pregnant.
I think it's his. I believe it's his mother in this version.
Well, I'm not sure because I maybe I know there's a line where he says, "Oh, my mother said blah 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 blah." But
I've read that round. I'm not gonna commit to that too hard. But it's just what every time I've read breakdowns of that trailer, people refer to her as his mother. Doesn't mean they're right. Doesn't mean I'm right. Could be his sick wife. I mean, I think the well, the well to which you return. Okay, so Penny Fleck, I believe, is playing.
Frances Conroy is playing Penny Fleck.
Frances Conroy is playing Penny Fleck. So she was born in 1953. So when was Joaquin born in the 70s? Yeah, so I think it's his mum.
Okay. Fair enough.
I believe, but who knows? Quite interested to see Mark Maron in here. I'm a fan of Mark Maron. He's a funny guy. He's a funny guy, you know. I'm kind of again full of caveats for this, and I will talk about the positives. What I don't want is a really straight down the killing joke is a well to which we've returned many times, and what I don't want is sad comedian gets abused and becomes the Joker, and then at the end Bruce Wayne looks at a photograph of a bat in an encyclopedia and then the credits roll. Fuck that, we don't need that.
Yeah.
What I want is the fucking off the wall crazy, this isn't your fucking dad's Batman, I don't know, Joker kills the Waynes or destroys Gotham. I don't know. I mean, I want it to be so completely different as to be its own thing. In terms cinematically, in terms of it's hard to judge from trailers, but I like the cinematography. Mm-hmm. I like the production design. It's got that good kind of 80s look to it, or 70s look, whichever they're going through. I think it's on that kind of cusp where they sort of bleed into each other. They've gone for a kind of John Wayne Gacy look for the Joker, which we haven't seen before. He is a dude, he's not like disfigured in any way that we can tell as yet, which is nice. I liked one kind of small thing that I liked was Arkham was not Arkham Asylum, it was Arkham State Hospital, which
I gather that's where isn't that where his mum's ill or something?
Oh, I wondered if it was just because often, well, firstly, we don't call things asylums anymore, and haven't for some time. But so I don't know. I just figured that was what their version of Arkham, because I was quite into the idea of a sort of modernist Arkham, because it's kind of like what they do in Batman Begins, but it's still called. I think they still call it Arkham Asylum, and it's still kind of gothic-y, but kind of, maybe a bit Edwardian. But this is sort of your 1970s, 1980s, 1960s concrete building, and it's called Arkham State Hospital, not Arkham Asylum, which I think is a nice take. Because this is Gotham.
Yeah. Sorry, no, I was going to say, just to me, the way the shots were staggered in the trailer, and again, it is a trailer, but it kind of read to me that, because he's going for therapy, isn't he? And he's also, I think his mum or his wife or whoever is sick in bed in the hospital at one point. So I assumed that was what it was. It was just a hospital, and he was going to, because he's in that elevator with that guy going crazy in the bed and stuff like that. It might be what becomes Arkham Asylum. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But yeah. I
mean, my preferred interpretation is that is Arkham Asylum. It's just got a state hospital.
Perfect. Yeah, I like that
take. I mean, whether or not that is what's going on, and like it's kind of like the Scorsese Schrader version of New York, the pre-Giuliani New York that I wank off about, but as Gotham.
Yeah.
And again, if it's off doing its own thing, I'm totally into it as an idea, and again, the kind of the, let's say, medium budget of it intrigues me. Something that I wanted to talk about, and this is not a loaded question, I just thought I'd let you take the lead on this one, then I'd chip in with my thoughts.
Okay.
What do you think, what are your feelings and experiences of Todd Phillips as a director?
That's right.
But that is, I'm not being cruel, but that is the correct reaction.
Well, what's he known for? He's known for like old school and stuff, isn't he?
Well, I think The Hangover are his biggest ones, really.
I'm just looking through Due Date. I quite liked. I watched that when we were on holiday once. Actually, Borat. He directed. Bloody hell.
Well, he directed I find it interesting that he directed the Gigi Allen documentary. Do you know about Gigi Allen?
No.
He was a very kind of off-the-wall musician, let's say, which is to put it lightly. So I think it was hardcore punk. I'm probably going to get called out on that because it's not my kind of genre. But I can't remember what kind of music it was. But he used to defecate on stage and cut himself and stuff like that. I mean, totally fucking hardcore dude. Mm-hmm. So Todd Phillips' first credit on IMDb, at least, is the Gigi Allen documentary, and then he did a doc called Frat House, which I haven't seen, and then it's straight into Road Trip,
Yeah.
And he's done another doc called Bittersweet Motel, but the Road Trip, Old School, Starsky and Hutch, School for Scoundrels, The Hangover, Due Date, Hangover 2, Hangover 3, War Dogs. He's doing the Hulk Hogan biopic that's coming up. I'm looking at his career. He's done some pretty serious sounding documentaries, which I have not seen. I'm not going to, let's not just lie to be cool. The bulk of his work are those kind of like vaguely gross out blokey comedies. Nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean he can't make the kind of, I called this a Scorsese film by proxy before. Doesn't mean he can't make the serious, cool, exciting Joker film. I don't see it in his back catalogue. Doesn't mean it's not there. I think it's quite odd that this kind of, I'm not going to call it art house because it's still $55 million and made by Warner's, but this kind of like, it's styling itself as an art house film regardless of the fact of whether it is one or not, I think. And I don't really see that in his pedigree.
No, but apart from something like War Dogs, maybe. Made that for 40 million. That's sort of kind of there. Star is Born. I mean, he's obviously in Bradley Cooper's good books because he did the TV show of Limitless. And
obviously they worked together on The Hangover and stuff. And now, he produced Star is Born for him, and Bradley Cooper's producing on this, and Bradley Cooper is all of a sudden this auteur now that everybody loves, which I haven't seen Star is Born actually, but by all accounts it's jolly rather good. So I don't know, to me it's kind of a left turn for him from what my concept of his career is, and I'm not one, if you'd asked the me of 10 years ago, I'd be like, it's that fucking guy who did the come on, he's made more fucking movies than I have, you know what I mean? And who knows, maybe he's been waiting to make the kind of crazy hard-hitting Joker. I don't know. Maybe. I'm trying to sort of look at this guy's career and not frame it through the lens of kind of like, he only makes comedies, because I don't think that's a legit criticism. Really.
Well, it seems to me that when their backs are against the wall, Warner Brothers seem to make much better decisions. When Batman and when Robin was a debacle, we ended up with Batman Begins. When they're successful, i.e. towards the Dark Knight run, it's then they start making some. It's just funny the way around they do it, but they start making quite boring decisions, and they make quite a lot of spreadsheet decisions. This is not one, and they're risking far less money on this. This is what, 55 million, bloody Batman v Superman or Justice League. What was that, like 300 million by the time they raised all the moustaches? It's like, well. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Though it's just like, well, once their pants are down and they haven't got a hit on their hands and they can't rest on their laurels and they have to start. It's interesting how you would assume at this point they'd start making more spreadsheet decisions because they need to have more of a sure thing. But here they're like, fuck it. There seems a lot more fuck it thrown at this, which is encouraging because I think that combination, it's so hard to work out what this is, and in that way I'm very encouraged because I think that's where some of their best work comes from. I think Batman Begins was, when I remember at the time when I saw all that stuff, I thought this looks mad. I saw the Tumblr, I thought, what the fuck is it? And all the early trailers were just Bruce Wayne trekking across the Arctic wastelands.
They were very resistant to actually mentioning or showing Batman in those trailers, weren't they? Because Batman was just considered poison for 6 or 7 years in that gap, and those trailers just did not. They put Batman last. It's like, it's not a Batman film. Like I remember there was a Scooby-Doo trailer. Do you remember that? That was, they said, like a hero returns, blah, 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 and they made it look like a Batman trailer, and the joke was the lightning went and you saw a silhouette with the ears and it was Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
That was the only hint between Batman and Robin and Batman Begins of any kind of Joker Batman stuff, and that was done as a joke.
Right.
I think a lot of people on the internet, us included, like to say that they gamble too much money on these big projects and they fail, and then they kind of double down on kind of uncreative decisions. And why don't they make smaller movies? They can just make, instead of making one $250 million film, you can make 5 $50 million films. Yeah. And this would appear to be that. And in which, if that's the case, then I am 100% behind it, and that's what encourages me. And I think it looks kind of interesting. I mean, I'm not going to pile in with it and say like it's the most fucking amazing thing I've ever seen, because I think pop culture has this obsession with the Joker. And I know, at least for the maybe millennial age bracket in which we reside at the top end, top end in terms of age, not quality necessarily.
No, quality.
The Jack Nicholson one, and quality, of course, and quality. The Jack Nicholson Joker was this pop cultural flashpoint, and I know already the Cesar Romero one was quite a big deal, and then of course there's the comics, but pop culture loves the Joker, and every Joker, even the shit Joker, like I'm just going to say it, the Jared Leto Joker, was a cultural flashpoint. Like every Comic-Con you went to, everywhere you went for ages, you would see that fucking people dressed up in that outfit, and you see that outfit all over the internet, and you still do. And I guarantee you, when Comic-Con starts kicking off next month and all this Comic-Con start happening, there's going to be so many Arthur Fleck Jokers. Yeah, all over the place. People love that character for whatever reason.
Do you think
it really captures the imagination?
Yeah, definitely. But do you think the is the Joker sustainable on his own? This is I think what is going to be the crux of this film, and I think does the Joker only work because of what he says about Batman and what he is to Batman, or does he work purely on his own? I mean, to me, as far as I'm concerned, no. I think you do have to have him against Batman, because otherwise it's just sort of an anarchist, and it's. I think what people are attracted to that they don't realise is that this is what it is like to be pure anarchy in terms of I say that it isn't really, is it? Because he always has a plan, even though he talks about not having a plan. It's about being this pure Machiavel, really, being this sort of really just total sociopath with no. I don't know. But I think the reason for that being so compelling is because he's up against a protagonist who thought it's about what it says about Batman, i.e. the immovable object.
Yeah. It's the yin and yang, isn't it? It's two sides of a coin. It's these two things that complete each other, and that's quite often what's discussed. No, I think it's what The Dark Knight did very well. As well as I didn't really get that with the Burton one. It's just kind of like, oh, you're bad, now you're dead. It seemed to be, and this annoys me because you killed my parents. Whereas really, it should be about how it's the unstoppable force meets the immovable object and everything.
Yeah.
I would say in terms now, I haven't seen it. It made a load of money. I can't still conceive of how a Venom film would work. I'll be quite up for watching it. I always liked Venom when I was a kid. Yeah. I think one of the few villains you could isolate potentially is Joker. I'm not saying it's going to work, but in terms of its cultural capital, in terms of if you wanted to make a film that would make money, you could do it with Joker. Creatively, I'm not so sure. And this is the thing, because normally, apart from Jack. It's not often that Jack Napier, it's not often that we give the Joker, a kind of pre-transformation personality, and it seems this is going to be quite a lot about Arthur Fleck. And if they have created an interesting character there, if this person's story is worth watching, because it's kind of like, the obvious influence here, it would seem, and I think keeps getting mentioned, is Taxi Driver, and that is about a singular person and their kind of inner life. And that's written in a way to make Travis Bickle is made interesting through the way that's written, right? And how that film handles him, because he moves through this world and we're with him nearly all of the time. If there's something like that on offer, if the quality of writing is there and if that's what we're getting, great. Again, if it's just sort of Clown Man runs around and does bad things to sell cosplay costumes at the fucking Party Mania,
well, do you think that? I mean, I've always felt that really the creation of the Joker needs to be in response to Batman. The craziness of Batman existing is perhaps what sends him over the edge, whoever he is. He's like, oh, okay, I live in a world now where there is a vigilante dressed as a bat going around who took down the mob, to use the Batman Begins model, and now that's it, balls to the wall. This world doesn't make any sense. That's I suppose what tips him over the edge. Or, you know what I mean? There's that element. Well, I mean, that has to exist.
That's where they went with the. That's kind of where they went with the Dark Knight version, which I like a lot, because it seems to imply that he kind of came into existence because of Batman. Yeah. I see where you come from. I don't profess to have particularly strong feelings about that. I mean, as long as he's there, Yeah. Again, this is the kind of the relationship with Batman is what kind of vexes this for me, because I kind of want that to not exist in order for this film to be worthwhile, because I don't want fucking Bruce Wayne seeing a bunch of bats falling in a cave at the end and Joker going no, I'll get you when you're grown up. It's just no, he's going to be older than my dad by the time Batman's old enough, and that's the problem Gotham has with you know, I kind of want this to be divorced from that relationship in order for it to be interesting. You know, that's my take. And you know, it's something I talk about a lot. They've had to pull a lot out of their collective arsehole to make this a thing. In that, you know, oh well, he's Arthur Fleck, he's a comedian, his mum's sick, and it seems similar to the kind of Killing Joke type model again, which is the well which we go back to all the time. You know, so I don't know. I mean, the main thing is, and the main thing that compelled me to want to speak about this really is that I was, as a kind of piece, I really liked the way the trailer created a mood and a sense of time and space. Yeah. A place in time and space, you know, it represents a period and stuff, and it's reasonably unfamiliar, at least from a kind of comic side, in that it's not the obvious kind of gothic Gotham or the city Gotham. It's the kind of 70s, 80s New York version of Gotham. And just this new version of Joker and these new characters and things. And again, it's something that on paper I'd be very cynical about, but having watched the way this was created, and I'm talking about like editing and music and lighting and all the bag of tricks we got in Filmland that make it interesting. So I don't know. It'd be very easy for me to just sort of go like, "This looks shit," which was kind of my stock in trade for the longest time. But I just don't feel that.
Well, what's interesting about this is that whatever happens, we are about to find out, or we're on the cusp of finding out, you know, whether the you know, because obviously this is going to have the backstory. We're going to know who the Joker is and whether or not the Joker is someone we should have audience sympathy for, or whether or not he should be this force of nature that just comes into our world, and you know, whether we follow him as a protagonist, or whether we follow you know, Batman as a protagonist, or follow Gotham as a protagonist. You know, that is about to be answered, and then, you know, it's an interesting thing to explore, and you look, we're going to get to live in a world where this is a thing, so that's pretty cool. I mean, you know, like, I'd rather have it than not, you know what I mean? So that's.
Well, I suppose ultimately you either watch it or you don't, you know.
Yeah. So we've got
something that.
One thing I wanted to bring up though, just quickly before we end, we've got Shea Willingham, Glenn Fleshler, and Bill Camp all credited as actor. But when you look at the pictures of them in scenes, they're dressed as cops, and I think Bill Camp looks an awful lot like a Harvey Bullock, which I'm quite excited for, because that's.
Oh yes, he really, yeah.
That I don't think has been explored enough, and that is a really good character.
They did go to town, but like they really went to town with Bullock in Gotham.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the more ordinary characters. I mean, I don't know, by season 7 or whatever it is, he's probably got a photocopier for a face or whatever. That show is so bananas. I don't even know what's going on anymore. But yeah, okay, no, I get that, and I'm kind of surprised we haven't had any super obvious Jim Gordon shit go on here. Because that seems to be, you know, he never seems to be far away. I mean, I'm kind of into the less Batman stuff in this, the better, and that's what discourages me. Like having kind of, and again, unless like 10-year-old Bruce Wayne's getting glocked in the face, I'm a bit less interested. Because we don't need that. We don't need to see the childhood of Bruce Wayne again. You know. So if that's kind of kept, and you know, I look down this character list, and that's what I like. So of course we've got Alfred and Bruce, but everyone else for the most part seems to be, you know, original content, you know, new characters, which encourages me, because I just think, you know, we're going to do our own story and everything. So, don't know.
It does seem interesting. I mean, yeah, if we did have Jim Gordon and Harvey Bullock reimagined as 70s New York cops kind of thing, that'd be great.
Doity shitters.
Hey, look at them there with their filthy.
We're there over here.
Smoking.
Do you think they listened to our Spider-Man episode and based the whole film on that?
I
quite like that. It's an idea.
Yeah.
No royalties, bastards.
Yeah.
Well, I reckon that then, my friend, it's probably time to wrap this one up. We're hitting up, we're nudging against the half-hour mark, which is where we're going to draw a line under this one. I think we shot the shit out of that, do you?
Yeah, definitely.
Pretty happy with that. I hope you boys and girls are happy as well. If you don't know what you're listening to and you've done this by accident whilst you're ironing or having a shit, this is Val Verde Broadcasting. Thank you for tuning in and listening. If this came on autoplay after whatever Let's Play video or fucking music you were listening to, thanks for enjoying it. If you could like and subscribe and share and do all that good stuff, we sell awful tacky merchandise. We have all kinds of links. We have a Patreon. Get involved in that. We have episodes out every Monday with our show It Ain't Broke, where we sit around and talk about movies and swear and sometimes get drunk. And we also do commentaries to movies feature length, which include kind of swearing and shit as well. I mean, we don't claim to be intellectually. I can't even finish that sentence. That's how dumb we are. So that's it. We're all done. We're going to wrap up. So thank you very much. We'll be back again soon. You want to get involved, check the links in the description, and we will see you next time. Bye. Bye, Duncan.
Bye, Richard.
Support your 7th or 8th favourite YouTube channel by buying crap, tat, junk, hogwash and filth at redbubble.com/people/Val Verde Shop.